Thunder 3 begins with something almost innocent. A strange disc, 3 ordinary boys, and a doorway that should never have opened. That simple beginning is exactly what makes the danger feel sharper. The idea works because the other world does not simply look different. It changes the meaning of their bodies, their courage, and the childish shapes they thought were only part of everyday life. On one side, these boys belong to school corridors and casual afternoons. On the other side, the same bodies become unusual weapons in a world that looks colder, larger, and far more real. The kidnapped sister gives the story a clear pulse. The boys are not exploring because they are curious. They are moving forward because someone they love is on the wrong side of reality. That makes the disc more than a strange object. It is a mistake, a wound, and a promise at the same time. Once it appears, the safe world is already gone. What I want from this anime is a sense of crossing into a place where every rule has shifted. The air, the scale, the enemies, and even the boys' own bodies should feel unfamiliar. The strongest emotional thread is not heroism, it is panic turning into responsibility. These characters can begin scared, confused, and small. That would make their courage feel earned. If the other world has the right weight, Thunder 3 can be both playful and disturbing. The contrast between cartoon simplicity and realistic threat is the whole magic of the Hoon. Premise: a wide shot of that world should make us feel that childhood has entered a place built for something much harsher. That visual contradiction is the heart of the story. The risk is over-explaining the mystery. If every rule is explained too quickly, the doorway loses its power. The anime should allow confusion to stay alive for a while. The boys also need to remain believable. They should argue, hesitate, make bad decisions, and still keep going, because the person they are trying to save matters more than their fear. When that fear becomes movement, the story can turn from a strange premise into a real adventure. Not a clean adventure, but one that feels improvised and desperate. What stays with me is the image of children entering a world that treats them like impossible creatures. That is unsettling, but also strangely touching. My feeling is that Thunder 3 has the right kind of weirdness. It can surprise people, but it can also carry a simple emotional question. How far would you go for someone you love? From here, the list moves toward another kind of transformation. Not a broken reality, but a stage where movement itself becomes a way to survive. The World is Dancing feels special because it treats movement as something people need, not something added for beauty. In a changing age, dance becomes a way to understand loss. The young performer at the center is not only learning technique, he is trying to understand why a body moves when the world around it refuses to stay still. That question gives the story weight. A dance can be memory, prayer, rebellion, grief, or a way to speak when ordinary words are too small. Historical stories often become distant, but performance brings this one close to the body. A hand, a turn, a silence before motion can carry an entire life. Masks are important here because they hide and reveal at the same time. A face disappears, but something deeper rises through posture and rhythm. The stage should not feel empty. It should feel charged, as if the air itself is waiting for the next step. What I like is that the story can make art feel necessary. Not decorative, not polite, but necessary for a person trying to survive an unstable world. The quiet parts may be the strongest. A performer standing still can be more intense than a battlefield if the direction understands tension. The wide historical frame also matters. The birth of an art form is never separate from power, class, fear, and the people who decide what is allowed to exist. The risk is stiffness. If the anime only asks us to respect tradition, it may become distant. It has to make tradition breathe through a living person. The young performer must be allowed to fail. Art becomes interesting when discipline meets doubt, jealousy, exhaustion, and the need to be seen. If the anime finds that human side, each movement can feel like a small answer to a world that keeps changing shape. What I want to remember is not a lecture about no, but the feeling of one person discovering that movement can hold a soul together. This title has the chance to become one of the most elegant works of the season if it trusts stillness as much as spectacle. After this, we shift from an ancient stage to a polished school where the real performance happens in secret in front of a glowing screen. Young ladies don't too. Play fighting games has a contrast that is easy to understand and fun to watch. In public, the students are expected to be graceful. In private, they are chasing the pressure of a perfect match. The academy setting matters because it makes the secret feel sharper. The more polished the school becomes, the louder the hidden arcade glow feels. A fighting game match can reveal personality very quickly. The way someone waits, panics, adapts, or refuses to give up says more than a polite conversation ever could. That is why the premise has more emotion than it may seem at first. These characters are not only hiding a hobby, they are hiding a version of themselves that feels more honest. The controller becomes a symbolic object. It is small, but the moment someone holds it, the mask of perfect manners begins to crack. I want the matches to feel readable. Even if someone does not know the game, the rhythm of attack, defense, hesitation, and recovery should make emotional sense. The rivalry can work beautifully if both sides respect each other before they are ready to say it. Competition often creates a kind of honesty that ordinary friendship cannot reach immediately. There is also comedy in the double life. Elegant posture in the hallway and absolute focus in front of a screen. That switch can give the anime real energy. The visual identity should be strong, polished academy light against saturated game glow, quiet etiquette against rapid button sounds. The risk is making the game scenes feel separate from the characters. The matches should never feel like an interruption. They should be the place where the truth comes out. The characters should not become jokes for liking games. The story works better if it respects how serious play can become when people put their pride into it. If the anime understands that, a close round can feel as intense as a confession. A small mistake can reveal fear. A comeback can reveal trust. What I like is the idea of finding someone who sees the hidden side of you and does not look away. That is a simple but strong emotional base. This title could be one of the most enjoyable entries of the season if it balances comedy, rivalry, and genuine affection without flattening any of them. Next, the list leaves the academy and moves toward water, memory, and a fairy tale that wakes up in the wrong century. Goodbye. Lara takes a familiar fairy tale and lets it wake up in a world that has already changed. That is a strong beginning for a story about longing. Lara is not only a mermaid from another time, she is someone who returns after loss and has to discover whether the word love still means what she thought it meant. Lake Biwa gives the story a softer kind of mystery. The supernatural does not arrive from a distant ocean. It rises out of a place surrounded by everyday life. That contrast is beautiful. A girl from an old curse stands beside school uniforms, quiet streets, family homes, and the ordinary rhythm of modern Japan. The water itself can become a memory. Every reflection can feel like the past trying to speak, and every bubble can suggest a life that almost disappeared. What matters is that Lara should feel like a person, not only a fairy tale image. She can be gentle, stubborn, confused, and hurt at the same time. The friendship she finds in the present may be more important than the romance she thinks she is searching for. That would give the story a more mature shape. A good version of this anime would let the modern characters challenge the fairy tale. They should not simply accept the old rules. They should ask whether those rules were ever fair. The visual mood can be very strong if it balances soft beauty with sadness. Moonlight on the lake should not only look pretty, it should feel like time has weight. The risk is making the story too delicate. If every scene is only gentle, the pain behind the curse may disappear. Lara's search should have friction. Love after betrayal is not clean, and starting again after 200 years should feel frightening as well as hopeful. If the anime remembers that, goodbye, Lara can become more than a mermaid story. It can become a story about choosing life after being written into someone else's tragedy. What I want to keep from this title is the feeling of old sorrow touching a new morning. That kind of image can be quiet and powerful. This could become a tender fantasy, but only if tenderness does not erase the wound at the center of the story. The final title in this set takes us from water to smoke, from a fairy tale to a city dreaming of electricity. Sparks of Tomorrow is built on a beautiful contradiction. The city is filled with smoke and steam, but the characters are still reaching for a future made of light. The dream of electricity is not only a technical dream, it is tied to a brother, to a promise, and to the pain of continuing after someone important disappears. That makes the catalog a powerful object. A book of inventions can also be a book of grief, because every drawing remembers the person who once believed in it. The alternate Kyoto setting gives the story a strong atmosphere. Shrines, workshops, smoke, brass machinery, and paper diagrams can all sit together in the same breath. What moves me is the idea that the future can be handmade. Not clean, not guaranteed, but built from sketches, mistakes, and people who refuse to stop imagining. The meeting between the two leads should feel like two unfinished hopes touching each other. Both carry regret, but neither has completely surrendered to it. This anime can be warm without becoming simple. The smoke should feel heavy, but the possibility of electricity should keep opening small spaces of brightness. The most important scenes may be very quiet. A page turning, a lamp trembling, a hand stopping over a drawing can say more than a chase through the city. The wider world also matters. If steam power has shaped society, then electricity becomes more than invention. It becomes a challenge to the order people are used to. The risk is becoming too soft. A story about hope still needs pressure. Dreams are only meaningful when something is trying to crush them. The characters should argue with the future, not simply admire it. They need fear, hesitation, and the painful knowledge that invention always changes more than expected. If the anime finds that tension, the catalog can become the emotional center, part memory, part map, part impossible promise. What I want to remember is a spark inside a smoky room, a small light that does not erase grief, but gives it somewhere to go. Sparks of Tomorrow could become one of the most sincere titles of the season if it treats progress as something human, fragile, and deeply personal. And that is the final reason this second list works for me. Each title has a different shape, but all 5 are about people crossing from one version of life into another.